So I want to begin by saying that I have come to the conclusion that in these times we need to go beyond the old notions of friendship and the old notions of politeness and even the golden rule to adopt one another as kin, to recognize each other as related to one another. Because when we do that, I think we have a greater chance of standing up for one another, especially in these times that are they're not just divisive. People talk about how divisive things are now. It's, we're being invited to be diametrically opposed to one another. And I think you know what happens when we are diametrically opposed to one another. Then we see each other as a threat. And because we also have this desire to survive, which usually comes before anything else, I had better eliminate my threats before they try to eliminate me. That's what I understand is taking place in our country and other places too. It's happening now. And so I feel really good being here. I already adopted you. There's nothing that you can do to change that. Okay? We'll be a complicated family for sure, right? And I'm glad you find humor in that. So also I want to say that my brothers, I adopted you. Okay? Okay, thank you. It feels good. It feels good to be adopted. One of the things that I learned in Zen Buddhism is that we can use all the ingredients of our lives to make our lives better and the lives of others better. So one of the things that I'm going to use today, which I had not planned to use because I didn't know it even existed, is this story that Rami introduced us to. I'm going to use this. And I'm also going to use the contemplative reading practices that I learned in Catholicism for us to return to the story of the Roman soldier who approached, is it Shammai? Shammai, okay. So in this story, one of the reasons why I said, ooh, I want to use this story is because it's such a perfect koan. It is like the perfect Zen koan, with one exception, and I'll get to that in a moment. So the Roman soldier approached Shammai working on a construction site and said, "Teach me the entire Torah while I stand on one foot, and I will convert." So the contemplative reading that I engaged in as I was looking at this was, what if I were approached in a similar way? I have my beliefs. We all have our beliefs. Sometimes people know our beliefs and they entice us, right? They try to trick us, right? By saying, I'll do this. If I do this and you do that, I'm going to adopt your views, right? Which if we're really attached to our views, we might be seduced by this kind of invitation. So I'm feeling that and was feeling into my own belief system. How important are these beliefs to me? And are they so important that if somebody does what they say they can do and I want them to do it, will I have attracted them to my belief system, and is that really that important? And I pose this question because I think what I'm gathering from being with you all is that you probably think about these things too, as theosophists, right? The philosophy of our belief systems, the freedom to believe what we choose to believe means that we don't coerce people into our belief system, right? So I'm reading this, I'm thinking, ooh, this is so juicy. Outraged by the audacity of the demand, Shammai grabbed a builder's level and chased the man away. Have you ever felt that kind of, that feeling, that kind of aggression when someone didn't agree with your belief system? Yeah. Yeah. And have you ever been on the receiving end of someone else's aggression? When you did not agree with them. This culture that we are in right now is all about this, right? I need you to believe what I believe, or I'm going to punish you. I'm going to find a way to punish you, right? And use you as an example in order to get other people to see my point of view, right? So I'm reading this and I'm feeling this tension. And the question came to my mind, what happened to Shammai? Whatever happened to him? I'll follow up with you later to find out, right? But this is what contemplative reading is about. It produces questions. Not only what happened to him, but what would happen to me if I chased after somebody with aggression in order to get them to believe what I believe, right? The Roman then approached Hillel with the same demand, which gave rise to the question, why did he have to set this trap 2 times? What's going on? What is this compulsion, right? What is this compulsion? And then teach me the entire, I'll convert. And then what I'm thinking here is, Hillel was not really that interested in conversion. Not interested in conversion at all, right? Which I'm guessing, theosophically speaking, is that a value that you hold?
Yeah. Not converting.
You're not out to convert people. Is that right?
Right.
True.
That's true. Respecting people is what I'm gathering you're about, right? So, when I'm asked, I think this is probably a shared experience, when I'm asked to give a presentation to a group of people I don't know, it's all speculation as to what is appropriate and what would be of value, right? I don't know. So I hope in our time, in our exchange together, you will tell me what is important to you, right? I'm getting a sense of these things from our conversations and the environment. And so then Hillel says, what is hateful to you, do not do to another. Now, is that not a value that these traditions say that we share, right? The golden rule in here. Okay. What is hateful to you, do not do to another. Now, if this had been a Zen koan, then the other person would have said, oh, what? And then run to the Zendo, right? That would have been it, where they would have gotten the answers to their questions. But in this story, it is said, that is the entire Torah. All the rest is commentary. Now go and study it, right? The rest is commentary. I think race is commentary. I think gender is commentary. I think religion is commentary. I think politics is commentary. I think our last names are commentary. I think who we say our children are is commentary. All the children should be our children. We should treat every child as if they are a child, love them with the kind of love that they need to survive and be resilient in this world. And so much is commentary. And so I just want to thank you for bringing this and thank, on behalf of the Catholic tradition, Carl, for the contemplative reading that I learned to do at Holy Names University in Oakland. All right. What else do I want to say as I'm getting ready? Getting ready. I have a lot of gratitude. I have a lot of gratitude for being here. I have received so much nurturance in this short period of time that I've been here. The food has been off the chain, as they say, delicious, right? And it reminded me of the importance of gratitude, the expression of gratitude. I was a pastoral counselor at a mental health care organization in Atlanta, and one of the patients there said, the gratitude practice that you introduced to me, that I engaged in 15 consecutive days, as you said I should, meant more to me than the medicine, than the psychotherapy, than the psychotherapy groups. And I said, really? She said, yeah, really. So I'm going to share it with you. I'm not saying replace any medication or therapy that you're receiving. I'm not saying that, but consider this. just in the time that we've been together, if you can recall 3 things that you are grateful for and actually write them down. Write them down. Just 3 things, and it doesn't have to be a big thing. And if you can't think of 3 things, think of 1 thing and write it down 3 times. Yeah? And engage in this practice for 15 consecutive days. And just see if it shifts anything for you. Yep. Anything. Okay? All right. So, like I said, I'm silly. Yeah, I love to have fun. I have a terrible sense of humor. Things that people shouldn't laugh at, I laugh out loud at, and then apologize. But I want to say that some things are not funny. And there's some things that happen that impact us the rest of our lives in ways that we can't imagine. And for me, one of those things was the bombing of the World Trade Center, September 11, 2001. I was at the airport in Tucson, Arizona, when it was happening. And I was on my way to the airport, and my partner called. No, I think I was there already. She said, "You're not coming home." And I said, I don't know what you're talking about. You need to pay attention. I do try to pay attention. What are you talking about? Find a TV and then call me back. So I found a TV. And I saw people were gathered around this TV, and we were watching the bombing of the World Trade Centers. And then, I don't know, I mean, it was so surreal. Then I began to pay attention to what was happening in the airport. You know, the lines forming, the crowds forming, the chatter, and I began to experience an anxiety that I had never experienced before. When I finally got home, took the bus home, I was still anxious. And this was an experience I'd never had before. And it was also the case that I was turning 40. And I had this big party plan. We were going to party down. I'm 40 years old, never thought I'd be 40. And all that excitement about being 40 was gone. I was confused. I didn't know what I wanted and didn't know how to feel better. So I asked my friends who were coming to celebrate my 40th birthday party not to bring me anything, unless they could bring me peace of mind. You bring me that, that's what I need. And one of my friends gave me a book by Thich Nhat Hanh called Touching Peace. She's not Buddhist. She knew nothing about the man, but saw the title and said, I think Ayo might appreciate this. So I globbed onto it because, right, I didn't know anything about him either. Didn't know anything really about Buddhism. I globbed onto it, and I had nothing to lose. Nothing to lose. I grew up in the United Methodist Church and had left the church when, in my spirit, had left the church when I was 16. So here I am, I'm grasping for something that's going to allow me to ease the anxiety of this experience while also dwelling with the fact that the President of the United States said that we will retaliate for this bombing even though we don't know who did it. Y'all remember? Right? So like, oh, that's something I don't recall ever having to live with. I don't know how to abide with this. So I opened up this little book, Touching Peace, and the first meditation and visualization, which I had never engaged in meditation or visualization before, was this. Breathing in, I see myself as a flower. Breathing out, I feel fresh. Flower, fresh. Breathing in, I see myself as a mountain. Breathing out, I feel solid. Mountain, solid. Breathing in, I see myself as still water. Breathing out, I reflect things as they are. Water, reflecting. Breathing in, I see myself as space. Breathing out, I feel free. Space, free. So, all I can say is, after engaging in that visualization and meditation, I said, there's something in this for me. I didn't know what it was, but I felt ease. So I would like to invite you into a meditation and visualization. Is there anyone here who doesn't know how to meditate? Okay, then I don't need to give you instruction on how to position your body. Yeah. So please get into a meditative posture that supports you, where you're not working at anything, meaning if you're holding something that you don't have to hold, release it. Let yourself be free of any work whatsoever. We're going to first sit in silence for 5 minutes. Thank you for your practice. Thank you. So I have a question for you all. My question is, do you think you have, in these last minutes, engaged in right listening? Right listening. That's a trick question. Okay. I know just coming out of meditation, I shouldn't ask you a trick question. That's not right. That's not right. You know, Carl was quoting some wisdom from the Quaker tradition about basically refraining from using words if those words were not going to improve on silence, right? I didn't do that. Also, Meister Eckhart has some words about that as well. Do you remember the quote, anybody?
There's nothing that resembles God as much as silence.
There's nothing that resembles God as much as silence. Well, I've been asked to come here not to be silent. So I'm in a dilemma. I'm in a moral, ethical dilemma of catastrophic proportions if I don't make the right decision. I will say this. I don't think that what I'm going to share is going to improve on silence. Okay? My hope is that what I'm offering in terms of ideas might improve on Buddhism as it relates to what it takes and what it means to be relational. As some of you may know, sometimes Buddhism is criticized for not being relational, about being so monastic oriented and so individually focused on one's own salvation that we forget how to be in relationship with one another, or we lose interest in that. And I think if we lose interest in being in relationship with each other, the political wedges that are being hammered between us now will be more effective. We need to be in relationship with each other, and I think one of the ways we can improve that is through a concept I'm working on called right listening. If you know much about Buddhism, then maybe you've heard, or you don't have to know that much. Actually, these are the core teachings in Buddhism. The Four Noble Truths, right? That there's suffering. Suffering has its causes. Suffering can be diminished or eliminated or transmuted. And the way to do that is the Noble Eightfold Path. Yeah? The Noble Eightfold Path is right view, right resolve, right speech, right conduct, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. As I was thinking about it, though, it's like, well, what about the listening part? Doesn't that have something to do with how we go about treating suffering? Yeah? Listening to ourselves. Meditation is about listening to ourselves. But also, hopefully, it's also about listening to all that is, all that we can perceive. And it is especially about listening to our neighbors, right? Listening to our families. Because when we listen to each other, what happens? Just throw it out. What happens when we listen to each other? Connection. Say louder. Understanding.
Feel loved.
You feel loved.
Less differences.
Empathy. What else?
Less differences.
Less differences.
Forgiveness.
Forgiveness. Anything else? Boredom. That's true. That's true. And then what do you do if you want to remain in relationship with someone who's boring you?
You listen anyway?
You listen anyway, as long as you can. Or you try to get in the dynamic to liven it up a little bit, right? Right? There are at least two people here, y'all, right? This is not a monologue. Here's what I have to say. But listening is critical, and we are in a situation where listening is devalued. Is it not? I would much prefer to show my power over you by talking over you. That's how I show you that I can dominate you, by talking over you. Or I may listen to you for 30 seconds, 45 seconds, maybe 2 minutes. But then I'm going to distort what you said by adding my interpretation of what you said, as if you don't understand what you were saying yourself, right? And there are many other ways that we don't listen. And so in Buddhism and these Eightfold Paths, I said we need another factor, if you will. At least another one is right remembering. We need to remember certain things so that we don't do those things over and over. Where's my historian friend? So we don't do things over and over again, right? We need to remember. So let me say a little bit about what I think I'm trying to get at regarding right listening. Okay, so do I want to do that now? Yeah, might as well. When we listen, when we truly listen to one another, we are engaging in self-forgetting for the moment. For that moment, it's not about us. It's not about our story. It's not about holding on to our story. It's not about telling or retelling the story. It's about bracketing all of that, forgetting all of that, so that we can create a container to hold another person's story. And this is a form of selflessness. Yeah. When we engage in right listening, we do so not to hear what we want to hear, right? But even when we hear what we don't want to hear, because we are human, right? We refrain from convincing ourselves that we heard something else. Surely they didn't say that, but yeah, that's what they said. Sit with that. Especially when what we hear is critical, right? So critical of ourselves. No, surely they didn't mean that. Yes, they did. Sit with it. Sit with it. By forming the intention to listen and be perceived as a listener, the person communicating has a much better chance of experiencing a sense of belonging. That love you were talking about, the empathy, right? That sense of belonging. And don't we all want to have a sense of belonging with someone, somewhere, somehow? We do not want to feel isolated and alienated. Yeah. And misunderstood. Someone else said understanding. To be consistently misunderstood is a very hurtful thing. Patience is involved in right listening. Patience, yeah. Of course, we cannot listen to someone go on and on and on and on. You can't even listen to me go on and on and on. I have very limited amount of time to make my point. But we can practice patience when we realize that we want something from the communication we're not getting. Okay, so like, they said they were going to tell me this, but they're not, and that's what I'm listening for, but they're not saying it. So I want to find that time to interject and say, oh, but weren't you going to tell me about such and such? Right? And that can help you get back into the conversation. Right listening involves right speech, which is part of the Eightfold Path, which means no unnecessary interruptions and no imposition of our own story to minimize another's communication. How does this work? Okay, so someone very close to me, we often argue about this very point. For example, I might say, oh, I fell today because I had a pain in my hip and I felt myself going down and I caught myself, but now I have this big bruise and I'm going to be limping for a while. I fell down once.
Sure helped me.
You get what I'm getting at there? It's not about you right now, right? I'm in my pain. I want you to hear that and feel that with a, I'm sorry you fell, how are you doing now kind of thing. Do you need anything? What can I do for you? And then maybe 2 days later, how you doing? I don't know what to do. I'm thinking about the time when I fell and had a bruise like yours. You want to hear more about how I got better? Yeah? Okay. Right listening is also paying attention to another's suffering, whether it is in the narrative, the story itself, whether it is in the body or a combination thereof. Because you can tell a painful story but be well, right? And you can feel horrible but tell a story that is full of hope and love and being future oriented. So pay attention to all the ways the story is being carried. And then right listening also means using skillfulness to enhance one's ability to listen. And this can include mindfulness and meditation. In the old suttas and sutras, it's often written that meditation masters have special powers. They have these magical powers. And one of the powers is the ability to read another's mind. Well, I don't know about all that magic, but what I do know is empathy. And that the quieter we are, the more in tune we are with ourselves, we have an enhanced ability to be empathetic with another, and then we can begin to ask questions about how they feel based on us sensing. We won't always be right, but the ability to tap into ourselves helps us to be in communication with others and listen to them. And then I'm going to say this, and then I'm going to explain what I'm talking about. Right listening as a practice aids enlightenment and diminishes Mara's power. Do y'all know who Mara is in Buddhism? Some people, Mara is the boogeyman. Mara is the tempter, the trickster. Mara is the person who, or the personified being who often appeared to the Buddha to knock him off his game. That's Mara, okay? So what I'm experiencing in these days is a culture of Maraisms. Yeah, I wonder if you're feeling that. Mara is basically anti-enlightenment. Anything that you try to do, that we try to do to become enlightened, Mara will be there saying, I don't think so, right? So, and this really does concerns me greatly. You may recall not so long ago that in our political structure, at the top of the structure, was a person who did not believe in facts. Still doesn't. Right? Who hired people to espouse this concept and notion of alternative facts. You remember? Now, so you also probably know the more you repeat something over and over and over again and you have no ability to challenge it, the greater the chance is that you'll come to believe that. It's the mind is how it works. So, John, did I say something? I'm like, am I good? Somebody walked out the last time I spoke, and I was like, uh-oh. Okay. All right. So, Maraism. Okay. In Buddhism, Mara is the personified impulse to shut ourselves down to experiencing life as it is. In Western psychology, we call it repression, and it's unconscious. And but not necessarily in Maraism. We may know exactly the things we're doing to shut ourselves down from experiencing life as it truly is. Maraism attempts to convince us that we are unable to experience life as it is, and that we shouldn't want to experience it. Maraism, in short, is anti-enlightenment, which means Maraism is not theosophical. See, I'm learning some things. I haven't been here that long, but that I know. Right? That I know. Maraism can be an internal dynamic, and it can also be caused by external factors. It is steeped in narcissism. Steeped, we know what that is now. If you didn't know what it was before, you know what it is now, and you know how dangerous it is. And sad, too. It's so sad. It is steeped in narcissism, which means only one worldview can prevail. It uses fear, be that emotional, psychological, and physical. It uses fear to impose its views through a variety of oppressive strategies. It provides sensationalized false narratives and false reframes to cast others, innocent others, in a negative light. It gaslights. Sometimes it rewards those who pledge allegiance to an anti-enlightenment strategy. Maraism is motivated by a quest for power, control, and domination. Ownership of the truth is its quest. Maraism confuses people to make them think that unwholesome desires are wholesome. It threatens to take from others what is precious, like privacy and freedom. It demands loyalty at all costs. And when all else fails, it pleads for violent means to keep it alive. It can be seen in the corporate greed of bullying. It can see that too, but it can be seen in the corporate greed of buying small regional newspapers and replacing them with a countrywide periodical, where the editor-in-chief is a publicly held corporation, and thus beholden to shareholders, not facts. Maraism is also in the politicization of news itself. Maraism promotes codependent relationships such that it convinces people that if it dies, they will die too. Therefore, others are responsible for keeping Mara alive and well. Maraism resides in individuals, groups, and systems and structures. It can change political structures from democratic to autocratic, even using our democratic system as a means. Critical thinking, perspective taking, research, and scientific methods are threats to Maraism. So Maraism repeatedly disparages every other way of knowing and coming to conclusions separate from its own anti-enlightenment processes. Maraism is a particular form of nationalism. White and Christian nationalisms are concepts in our collective political and religious rhetoric, And Marism is part of nearly every ism there is. It seeks to totalize everyone who doesn't serve its self-aggrandizing and anti-enlightenment project. And this is all from my humble Buddhist point of view. But in all seriousness, Marism is one of the causes that has made us sick and has killed countless people. This is where we are. And also, we are on a shared journey, are we not? Is this theme just kind of like fluff, or is it real?
Real.
Real. Okay, then we're going to be real. Right? My kinfolk, we are on a share. Yes, exactly. We are on a share. Rabbi Rami. Amen, brother. Yes, yes. We need to have that kind of passion for one another, honestly. Right? When I look at you, Maria, right? When I look at you, I should be looking at you with the eyes of love. Because I know this is only one Maria. I will never meet another Maria. Never. Wow. Ain't that something? That each one of us is so unique and precious and special like that? Man. Okay. So we are on a shared journey with each other, each precious person in this room. Our co-journeyers. Man, that's something to celebrate. Where are we going, though? I did bring my suitcase. I'm ready. I'm ready to go somewhere. The heart of the spiritual path, a shared journey, the heart of the spiritual path. We are, I believe, attempting to reside in the heart of the heart, deep as we can be. Right listening, I hope, will help us be there. And so I want to ask the question, can we imagine being on a shared journey, dwelling in the heart of the spiritual path, or no path? Can we do this without right listening? I don't think so either. I don't think so. So let me share with you something that I learned from my profession as a pastoral counselor about listening. So have you ever heard people say, I hear you? And you know, like, yeah, you heard the noise. By the time it got from my mouth to your ears, it was noise. And you heard it, right? But what I'm talking about is increasing our capacity for observing and perceiving another. Right? So this is what I learned from my work as a pastoral counselor. Take what works and take what doesn't work, okay? When you listen to someone, when you're deeply engaged in right listening, also pay attention to their appearance. Not in a way to be judgmental, but to see, do they take care of themselves? How do you know that? Right? And how do you know they take care of themselves? And if you feel like something in you is saying they're not really taking good care of themselves, like I'm used to seeing them with matching colors or whatever the standard is, right? Or they have the right shoe on the right foot kind of thing. But now they're coming in with only one shoe, something might be up. I'm listening, I'm perceiving, and I'm going to continue observing to see if care is needed here. Listen to how they speak. Is it rapid fire, word after word, or like they're barely breathing? Rapid fire? Is it a lot of space? Like they're really searching for that next word, like they have no idea what the right word is. Pay attention. Like something's different, may have changed for this person. Do they know where they are? Do they know what time it is? Do they know the year? Do they know who's present? You know, these basic things. And if they don't, that's something to pay attention to, right? Just taking in, listening, perceiving, observing. And their body language, right? Is the body language congruent with the narrative, right? So yes, we all have our stories. But what is the body language telling? That might be telling a completely different story than the words are telling. Why is that? Why are they crying when they're telling a funny story and laughing when they're telling like a horror story? What's up with that? What's the mood with which they express themselves? Let's pay attention. Yeah? Is it super elevated, right? When they're not talking about anything that's truly exciting? Is it depressive when they're talking about something that you think normally they would be overjoyed about? Just receiving. And what is the content of their expressed thoughts? Are there recurring themes? And what are they telling as a result of those recurring themes? What's the true story they're telling there? How do they make sense of their life? How is it? Is it past traumas that keep coming up in the storytelling? Right? Do they tend towards superstition, operating out of negative false narratives that may have been passed down to them and they believed it all these years and it's not true? What do they remember? What are the stories they carry with them that also are a lens that they look through to determine what is real and what is not real? Do they have insight? In other words, when you ask them a question about something, does it seem like that, that they can reflect on it and derive wisdom from that? Right? If not, is their story meaningless to them? It's just words. And then do they exercise pretty good judgment? Yeah. I don't like that these things keep happening to me. Have you tried doing something different so that they don't happen? No. They just keep happening. Could be that you could help them as a good friend, good spiritual friend, to help them rehabilitate some of their judgment about things. So these are just some of the things that I'm thinking about that I wanted to share with you about how we could engage in right listening with one another, to help us build our kinship with one another, to help us live in a society where so much is stacked against our enlightenment quests. So much is stacked against that right now, unfortunately. Now, if I were going to give another talk, I would say, now, how are we going to tell the truth? How are we going to make sure the truth gets out there? How are we going to make sure that people begin again to value truth-telling? How did we get here? And can we get somewhere else? Please, Theosophical Society, help us. All right, so before I get carried away even more than I am right now, let me just say this. When we meditate, when we are engaged in contemplative practices, please remember that these practices can be used to improve our relationships with other people. It's not just about our own salvation. It's not just about our own enlightenment. It's about an enlightened society. How do we support that through our individual practices? And think about how we can be generous in the fruits of our practice. What is it that we are gaining that we could share with other people? Not just keep it to ourselves. All right? That's what I'm hoping we can do. In the last few minutes, we just have a few minutes, right? 1 minute. Thank you.
How do the Buddhists look at intention?
Right intention, thank you for the question. Right intention is part of the Noble Eightfold Path, right? Intention is best cultivated when certain other I can say prerequisites have been considered and adopted, like no killing, no stealing, only truthful speech, the cultivation of compassion. All of these things help support right intention. So, for example, if I say, Stephen Braun, let's see, how do I want to do this? Stephen Braun, that shirt. Okay, I'm just going to leave it at that. You don't know what my intention is, right? You have no idea what my intention is, but I've already spoken something. And what I should do as a Buddhist practitioner is think, what is my intention before I say anything? What is it I'm trying to do by pointing out Stephen's shirt, right? If my intention is to humiliate him, then I shouldn't say it, right? That's the wrong intention because it can cause suffering. But if I say, you know what I love about that shirt? I think it reminds me of those little plants on it. It reminds me of ginkgos. I don't know if that's what those are. Yeah. I don't know, but I have a ginkgo on my, and I'm gonna connect now with Stephen about ginkgos. Let's say, right? That's the intention here, right? It's critical.
Oh, yeah. Thank you. I'm a communication specialist by training. I'm a speech pathologist, but this part of communication really fascinates me. So, yes, I hear what you've said about right listening, but how do you promote right listening to people who have who are encased in steel? You know, you started off by talking about politics. How do you reach out to those people? Yeah.
Okay. So encased in steel, do you mean in their opinions?
Yes,
Okay.
they're right. They have
Yeah.
very rigid opinions,
Right.
and they don't want to hear
Okay.
what you have to say.
Right, okay. So you're the communications expert. I'm not, so please return the mic after I say what I'm going to say. Like, going back to empathy. Even if a person is opinionated, there's nothing like empathizing with the feeling that gives rise to the opinion, right?
Say that again.
There's nothing like being empathetic with the feeling that gives rise to the opinion, right?
Well said. That's good.
So I would go there. Not with the, taxes are too high, right? It's like, oh, so you want to keep more of your hard-earned dollars, right? I get that. I don't want anybody just deciding what to do with the money that I earn, right? And also then, if this is your position, well, I want to keep more of my money too. I do too, but man, when I hit those potholes that I know that you're swerving around, I want somebody to fix that. Now, how are we going to solve that problem? What's your idea about that, right? Always, and I think I heard this because I'm trying to learn, Theosophists say to proceed with however it is you're living without attachment to the outcome. Did I hear that? See, I'm learning. I'm learning. And again, with this communication, same principle, right? We proceed in our attempt to be in relationship with one another without an attachment to the outcome. Because here's my view. As much as this being encased in steel blinds a person to the reality of the other person, just give it a few minutes. Say something, anything, to become real to that person so that they have a chance to empathize with us. Give them that chance. Yeah? What do you think?
I think I hear what you're saying. You're saying make a connection with that person, find a piece of their heart. I hear what you're saying from you, what you're saying from your heart, and then make a connection between that and your perspective, but not in a way to attack or change their mind, but to make that connection. Like you just made the connection with Steve. Oh, we both have Ginkgos. Yeah.
I mean, it may sound kind of childish, like,
No.
oh, we have something in common. That's not what I mean. I mean,
Yes.
we are in a
Right.
we're in a situation now where actually we're being invited to objectify each other, right? Based on a perception or opinion. It is our job to become subjects to one another. And the way we can do that is by showing up authentically, whether a person likes it or not.
So when you were talking about perceiving more than just the words, the entire person, all the different aspects that you might perceive, not in a judgmental way, other than making judgments about how you can best help, maybe. As you were describing it, I was having a hard time imagining what I would do with that information, and how I would be able. It's like I can feel my question, but I'm having a hard time articulating it. So maybe I've already inspired a thought you could elaborate on what I'm saying. But do you get what I mean?
I
It's
think
like
so.
hard to. Yeah, I'll let you talk.
Yeah, I'll just say, allow yourself to be surprised. Practice it and see what happens. Maybe nothing, and maybe somebody will say, "Boy, you sure are listening deeply to me. What's up? I'm not used to you being this quiet. What are you doing?" You don't have to say, "I'm assessing you." I'm assessing you for your well-being. You don't have to say that, but just to say, I'm just paying close attention.
One of the things that we in the TS are very good at is we have very strong ethical and social principles, universal brotherhood of humanity, etc. I think we've difficulty applying that compassion to some of the social justice issues that we are now facing, like the LGBT issue, now more the thing, the transgender dictates that are now being passed across this country. How do we, one, enliven ourselves to start thinking and doing something about those things? I mean, Doug talked last night, action has got to be in there. So how do we go about doing that and energizing ourselves to do that? Because we're not normally geared to do that. Some of us aren't.
I'm glad we only have 2 more minutes. Oh, now 1. Let me pace over here and there'll be 30 seconds. If there are people who, no matter how bad the situation gets, they're not going to be involved, right? So they're not going to be involved in changing the system, and I would suggest not putting our energies there. Yeah? Those of us who are energized, finding other energetic people and making a plan. And that plan may not be a world-changing plan. It may be that, we're just going to be witnesses to some atrocity in our neighborhood. I learned that animal rights is very important to many people in this community. So there might be a shelter in the area that is not caring for the animals there. We'll just go and hold up a sign on Saturdays from 8:30 to 9, and then we're going to go have coffee and enjoy each other. And we're going to do this until the situation is improved. If it takes too long, then we're going to take it to the news station, whatever, but to have a plan, to get together with those few people who care about what you care about, come up with a plan, and then do your thing. so that we're not saying, I can't change anything by myself. Right. Right. But who can I change it with? Or who can I at least make that effort with? Yeah.
I am fascinated with the idea of wanting to connect with the folks who are still encased in steel. And I am beginning to work with an organization that's trying to bring mindfulness into the workplace and into various areas of society through the text messaging capacity on iPhones. So my question is, how do you see marrying some of the Buddhist techniques in meditation and spirituality with the advent of artificial intelligence sort of coming more and more into our lives, with helping to change these hardened attitudes that we're talking about?
Well, what I love about that question is reminding me of some sitcom I was watching not long ago, and one of the characters said, "We don't need another meditation app, do we?" They're all over, right? They're all over. However, are people utilizing them? Really applying them in the workplace and elsewhere? I don't know. I don't know the answer to your question, but my guess and my hope is that whatever programs people are using, that there will also be human beings involved who will be accessible to people, to the user, for questions and community building, right? Because I'm also seeing that, especially COVID, I think we need to readjust to each other, right? That's what's happening. This is part of my joy of being here, is that I get to be in person with y'all. I was thinking about it, how much fun I was going to have, and I am having that. But many of us, I think, are still adjusting to being with each other as we were before, and have chosen to be more with the AI and the apps than with the people. So if there's a way to combine it, to show we're in real trouble if we lose value in ourselves.
That's true.
Right? In which that's happening too. Preferring AI over human wisdom, warmth, and like having eyes on us. It's so important to have eyes on us. So I hope that you can find that way. And I will lastly say that I interviewed someone, her name is Stacy McClendon, for Lions Roar podcast on mindfulness in the workplace. And you can find it if you type in Stacy McClendon or IO podcast, mindfulness